of urgency, that there's so much to be done in that regard. And I always feel like there's so much more to do. Just since the last time we spoke, we talked about a case last time I was on about this guy, Albert Wilson in Kansas, who was accused of a black man accused of an assault of a white girl, and that I felt he was unjustly accused. And we had unearthed some things about the alleged accuser. It's a difficult situation because I have daughters, and I was very, very solid in my belief. And since then, his conviction has been thrown out. I was able to successfully get his conviction thrown out. And the way that I end up getting involved in these cases almost feels like, I hate it when people say this. So when I say it, I want to stuff the words back in my mouth, but it feels like it's for a reason, because it's almost like the universe is telling me, all right, now you got to do this next. I'm walking out of court in November, and the hearing is it's in Lawrence, Kansas, the armpit of the middle of the country. The only thing that's there is KU, the school. And when I say armpit, I don't mean that in a pejorative way. It's like one of these forgotten towns. I guess there's no other way but pejorative when you say armpit. So it was a poor choice of words. But the hearing was being broadcast live over YouTube, because the courts want to maintain the integrity of having a public hearing. So I walked out of the hearing. The case hadn't been overturned yet, and there's like 100 people outside the courthouse in the middle of the pandemic rallying for this guy's conviction to be thrown out. And this mother runs up to me and she hands me a newspaper article. And there was an activist with her, and she says, "This is the case of my son. Can you read about this?" And I was like, okay. I stuffed it in my bag. She said, I was watching you in court, and he needs you. Please don't turn your back on this community. And, when you put it that way, I'm like, Jesus, I already start to feel guilty because I'm riddled with existential guilt. So I'm like, the last place I want to come back to for a murder trial. This is a guy that was accused of this awful homicide. So I just put it in my bag. I get on the plane to go home, and I take out the newspaper and I start reading about this case. It's the case of this guy named Rontarus Washington. And I start reading about it on the front page of the paper. And I started talking to myself in my seat. And the guy next to me goes, "Excuse me, are you talking to me? I must have been disturbing him." I kept on saying, holy shit, this guy is accused of a murder. He spent 6 years in pretrial detention before he got a trial. He's sitting in jail for 6 years. And I talked about the Clemente Aguirre case last time we talked, about how he goes to a neighbor's house and he walks into a crime scene and then they accuse him of it.
Right.
It's the exact same fucking thing. This guy lives down the hall from this murder victim. He sees the door cracked open and he knocks on the door to see if everything's okay. He walks in, gets a little bit of blood on his sandal, and they accuse him of the murder. And it's so obvious that the husband of this victim killed her. There's her blood on his shirt, his hair in her dead hand. And I'm thinking to myself, how does this guy get charged with this? And then I'm sitting here on the plane thinking, what are the chances that I'm going to get the mother of an accused person, a black man in Kansas, where the former prosecutors were accused of all sorts of racial insensitivity, all sorts of prosecutorial misconduct, where I'm going to get this guy's mother shows me a newspaper article about the case. It's got so many stunning similarities to another case I did in Florida. A neighbor walks into a crime scene, gets accused of the murder. All the forensic evidence points to someone else. So I went home and I looked at my wife and I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have another case in Kansas. There's no way I'm letting this go. So you're right. It's this sense of like, when I feel I can make an impact on righting a wrong, I can't I can't turn away. I can't look away. And, you know, there's a real problem in this country, really, really bad, with our justice system and how it metes out punishment and injustice on people of color. We're dealing with a human being here. A person of flesh is a life. So let's talk about, while we respect the victim, you know, is making them understand that it's less about winning and more about, let's just take an objective look at the evidence. Look, there's a DA, a new DA in this county where this Rontarus Washington case is being tried. Now, I have now signed on. This is not, you know, I guess was kind of predictable, with the Midwest Innocence Project, which is a different innocence project, but it's part of the Innocence Network, and a local lawyer to represent him. And the case was tried once to a hung jury, and now we're retrying it. The woman that ran for DA ran on a platform that the Albert Wilson case, the case that we got the conviction thrown out, and the Rontarus Washington case were problematic prosecutions, and that she was going to take a close look at them when she became DA. And at least she is giving me a forum and saying, I will let you come in and present to me why we shouldn't go forward with this prosecution. Now, is she still, now that she's DA, is she firm in her belief that Rontarus committed the crime? I think she is at this point. I think when we get before her and we're able to convince her that this is not a sound prosecution, I'm confident that, you know, she ran on this platform. So let's see if she'll live up to it. So far, I've been pleasantly surprised. But that's a grain of sand on a beach that stretches this whole country. And so that's where the sense of urgency comes, is that the more people we can get being focused on identifying the problem, and as you correctly put it, a lot of it is about winning and losing.